Welcome to the Bleav Podcast Network SoCal Sweat. My name is Anne McDaniels, a former NFL cheerleader and product manager turned actress and model who dreams of being a UFC fighter. Meow. Learning strategies to help motivate others leads me to bring you interviews each week from a range of athletes, experts in fitness and nutrition, and so much more. Thanks for listening to Bleav, the #1 podcast for working professionals, and let's push our endorphins to higher performance through SoCal Sweat. This is your host, Anne McDaniels, and welcome to another episode of SoCal Sweat. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the diet and training of a professional sumo wrestler. Professional sumo wrestlers are also known as rikishi. There's a natural tendency to see a sumo wrestler's size and assume he may be out of shape, overweight, obese. Yeah, they're big, but they actually have a high percentage of muscle as a result of building the perfect body in order to maximize their mighty fighting power. One such famous sumo wrestler who was hilarious, Muscleman Bayamba, weighed in at 350 pounds, but only had 11% body fat. How interesting. Their basic practice, called keiko, involves 4 different elements, which is shako, teppo, matawari, and suriashi. Each one is difficult and focuses on the primary necessities of becoming a good fighter, which is flexibility, balance, strength, speed, stamina, and stance. Many live in the same home as a community, where they eat, sleep, and train together, literally like hibernating bears. They wake up in the mornings to train for 5 grueling hours, may I say, on an empty stomach, because when you're doing all of that combat for 5 hours, you want an empty stomach. And when they come home, they have an enormous diet of lunch centered around the chanko nabe. This is a hearty stew which is loaded with vegetables like bok choy, daikon, mushrooms, gobo, green onions, cabbage, you name it, every vegetable. And they include lean proteins like chicken, tofu, fish, and meatballs. And this all comes together in a dashi broth, which is a clear broth. And then to balance all of this, just like other athletes may do, they consume more veggies and safe starches like rice and noodles. Then they go to sleep, and they train upon rising. And they come home and have a dinner of fried mackerel, udon noodles, and ample amounts of salad. But, don't let them fool you. They do like to indulge and have fun. The sumo wrestlers do love to drink their beer. Oh yes, one must indulge. Well, now today, I bring on my very good friend, Americus Abasamis, who is actually Filipino. And interestingly enough, he was picked up because of his look for a role in film and television. It first was a commercial, and he had to go and train to become an actual sumo wrestler just because he had the look. They wanted him to have the training, or at least the very basic training. Well, he began to love it, and as he booked more jobs, well, he might as well just get better at sumo wrestling and really found a love for it. So you will have seen him in many, many commercials, television shows, and he's worked all across the globe for film and television. But he also competed and did very, very well in sumo wrestling. I mean, to name a few, he was a professional wrestler, and in 2011, at the California Sumo Open, he took first place in the heavyweight and openweight divisions. In the 2011 Nationals in Las Vegas, he took second place into the Masters heavyweight and third in the Masters openweight divisions. He's also a member of the United States Sumo Federation, California Sumo Association, and is also a United States veteran in the Army. Born in Jersey City to a Filipino family, I bring you Captain Americus Abasamis. Well, hello there, my darling. How are you, Captain Americus?
Doing fine.
Anything interesting for Thanksgiving weekend?
No, it's like with the LA shutdown and everything going on, it's pretty much staying at home with the family, so
yes,
can't go see the relatives.
Well, good. I just happened to see that. Is it your Bleav that just turned 9? Your Bleav
She turned
Chihuahua?
9 on November 11th. She's 9 years old. She's the boo.
The boo. She has a 9/11 birthday.
Yeah. Come here, Bailey. You want to see? Come on. Come here. You want to say hi? Come here. There we go. There she is.
Hi, Bleav. Well, Bleav, you have this in huge sumo wrestler in front of me, holding a tiny chihuahua with a pink sweater. Name's Bleav. Again, never judge a book by its cover. So, Americus, thank you so much for joining me today.
Big guy with a small dog.
Yeah,
one of the
exactly.
smallest dogs.
Exactly. And some of the nicest people too. So your full name is Americus Sumo Captain Abasamis. And you came
So it's like Americus Abasamis, but then I got the nickname Captain or Sumo since I've been doing sumo since 2007 now.
Okay. So you were raised in Jersey City.
Yeah.
And
born and raised as the Jersey boy out there in Jersey City on the East Coast.
Were you with brothers? How did this all
I have a younger brother. I have a 1 year younger brother and then older half sister back in the Philippines.
Okay. And did you come from sports? Had you already done football or?
Not really. Back in high school, I was mostly did the karate club out there, and then I started the Explorer program with the United States Army National Guard.
Okay.
Back in I started back in 87. I think I started, about 87, sure. 88.
Okay, so then you did the military. Thank you so very much.
Then I enlisted for 2 years. Okay. But I was training over at Fort Dix during my pre-training, and then of course I was with the Armor, so it's Fort Knox, and then back to Fort Dix, and then back to West Orange, where my unit was at the time.
And you were the 50th Division, the Delta Dragons.
Yeah, 2nd Battalion, 102nd Armor.
Okay.
Delta Company.
Thank you for your great service. Yeah. I'm sure you've kept in touch with a lot of those guys, and
it's a few of them. I've luckily with Facebook, you get to be able to connect with them.
You certainly do. That's fantastic. Yeah. Now, you said you got into the sport of sumo not until 2007. How did that happen?
I actually did some sumo wrestling for film and TV beforehand, but officially started amateur sumo wrestling back in 2007. I was doing a Ford commercial for Fox, and unfortunately they didn't use the commercial. But I met one of the directors of one of the sumo clubs here in LA, so they asked me to join up and try it out, and then compete in amateur sumo wrestling here in America, which most people don't know is still a growing sport.
Absolutely. So you really kind of got into it by accident just because of the look you had, because for our listeners who are not in film and television, even if don't possess a certain talent, if we look a certain way and we fill the part, we'll book it. You could book it over a champion sumo wrestler because they may not have the look that or they might not be good looking enough. It's really sad, but it's just, all objective, but still, I love that was kind of accidental. And when you were on set, did you work with a stunt coordinator and then he was showing you certain moves and you just became interested?
Yeah, there was an advisor on set to do certain moves. Luckily, I learned through YouTube also how to do certain motions. Did the research, and then once I started getting into sumo wrestling training practices, went early in the early years, going to practices with the California Sumo Association at the time. And then it got me work around the world during the last few years, going from different parts of the world, from South Africa, Germany, even got to Beirut, which is weird to be hired as a sumo wrestler out there, and different other parts of the country as well.
What a wonderful experience. And when you say that you traveled, that was when you got really serious and you went into competing, or was it more for film shoots?
I did the competing to just stay in practice. But for the film and TV and commercial work around the world, I got referred and then got sent over to do and get hired to do these commercial jobs, print jobs in Europe, in South Africa. And then it helped me get other work as well, even work on a non-sumo thing, but they liked my size. I was doing a Volkswagen commercial for Beijing and Shanghai, so they actually flew me out there. Had to do an audition here in LA, and then got picked because of my size, and I was the only one in the tux. So.
Oh, that is amazing. So it's just kind of funny because basically You got picked because you're pretty face and but you're really not as
in size,
big as,
yeah.
exactly.
No, I'm not.
Tall.
Yeah, I'm only 6 feet tall, and the heaviest I usually was about 360 to 380 at the time, back a few years ago. I'm down now to around 300, 310, depending on if I have to compete or not later on. But I'm actually trying to lose more weight to try to get back under 300, so I lose some of the extra pounds.
Interesting, and that's what I really wanted to get into. I just find it fascinating that, I mean, you're larger than life, though. You always seem, even though you're 6 feet tall, I always, because I'm 5'8", and then when I'm wearing heels, I guess we're like
almost even
height, or even sometimes me tall. It's crazy.
Yeah.
You seem like a wonderful, like, giant of a man, well proportioned, of course. And I just happened to read that, is it Bayamba Muscle Man? He is 350 pounds with 11% body fat. That's a wrestler, and he's a coach, I'm sure.
Yeah, he has a similar. He's a little bigger than me, but he has a similar build to me. That's why we get Biamba and I, we get hired as a pair to do some of these sumo gigs out around the world, or around here in the country, in the U.S. Or get hired, or we also actually compete against each other for the auditions for the work too, as well.
So he lives here, and you work with him here.
Well, he used to live. He passed away back in February, unfortunately. But but he lived here in LA. He also was living in Chicago half the time there, because he's got family out there as well. So
such a great sense of humor.
He used to live here for the last few years in LA.
Yeah, and I'm sure you checked out some of the restaurants that he would take some of his students to.
But there's in terms of food, like we're about to talk about now, there's really no standardized diet for amateur sumo wrestlers. In the professional league in Japan, it's a little different. But here in the U.S., it's pretty much you can eat whatever you want. Sure. I miss the buffets out here.
No, definitely, I know. But if you go to the Midwest, I promise you, they're still there. I was just there 2 weeks ago. No, I was like really fascinated, because I think that people just think that sumo wrestlers eat whatever they want and just pile it on. And like you said, in America, sometimes it's not taken as seriously, perhaps, as Japan or some of these other countries where it's more popular. I just happened to watch, the diet of the Chakanabe, which, so many people would think that you would just eat tons of processed food. This wonderful stew is all vegetables, protein, rice, and it's usually a 10,000 calorie per day diet, which is crazy.
Yeah, because let me give you a perspective. In Japan, they train first thing in the morning. They for a few hours. They don't even eat breakfast. They wait until lunch. They'll have the chankanabe and beer at lunch, and what they do afterwards is sleep it so it all stays in, all the calories, all the nutrients stay in, and that's how they get bigger. And then they continue training after a few hours of sleep, and do the process all over again for dinner.
It's like a hibernating bear. That goes into rest.
That's how they keep the pounds in there, because they're over. Some of them average from 300 to 400, 500 pounds.
Oh my god!
And some of it's almost half their muscle mass, in addition to the fat.
Yes, I mean, I see 11% body fat on a 350 pounder.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. And I guess is it mostly coming from the rice? Because if you look at some of the stews,
right. Well, the stews they make with chicken, beef, fish. It's all the proteins in there, in addition to a lot of cabbage and mushrooms and all the vegetables that are added into the stew as well. Mm-hmm. And they eat a lot of it, and plus the beer. That's get their carbs in there too.
Okay, and that was so funny. So, is it a certain kind of beer? It must be like a Japanese beer that's fortified with nutrients, or is it just they drink beer?
It's just whatever beer is available for them.
Oh, well, that sounds like a pretty good sport for a lot of people, actually.
Yeah, but then, and then the difference here in America, for our wrestlers here, they pretty much eat whatever they want, and some of them just have a good metabolism. Some even have a fast metabolism, because there is a difference from Japanese sumo wrestling to amateur sumo wrestling, which is the rest of the world, because they I think we're discussing about, they have their own stable and they're there 24/7.
I watched
here in the US and all the amateurs wrestlers around the world, they don't stay in stables. They just have regular lives. We do this as a hobby, and then it's a serious hobby, but it's also building sport right now. They're trying to get the sumo wrestling into the Olympics right now, but it won't make it until for next year's Japan. But I think they'll do a special ceremony with sumo wrestlers in the Olympics for next year.
But you get that added bonus if you just happen to be good looking with the talent, and then they put you on camera. So it's like the perfect.
Yeah. I'm hoping that, they'll fly me out there for if I get book a job out there.
Yes, definitely. And then for the next Olympics, for sure, you could be the face of the sport. Who knows? Although that would probably
who knows?
raise controversy. Well, that's fascinating. And I also saw that, just watch some of the YouTube videos in the stables. It's very ceremonial. They all get up together. They all cook together. They clear each other's plates. I mean, and there's so much respect, where usually you can think, and teams are usually respectful of one another on the team, but a lot of people are competing against each other. There didn't seem to be competition. Everyone seemed to be happy for themselves, and such respect to the coaches. I mean, they just bowed down, worship these coaches.
Well, it's a 1500-year-old sport, and it's developed throughout the years. And then as the modern world comes in and catches up into sumo wrestling, a few modifications come into play. But in Japan, it's all traditional, all serious there. And then in amateur sumo, it's a little more laid back. Some of the ceremonies are cut down just because of time. Some people just have a short attention span and they can't deal with all this ceremonial stuff. But when you look at different videos from different countries, it's a much faster pace and a wide variety of divisions now. In Japanese sumo wrestling, all the wrestlers are there at one. There's no divisions, of different sizes or stuff like that. In amateur sumo, there's lightweight, middleweight, light heavy now, and heavyweight. And also now we have men and women divisions, and in addition to kids and teenager divisions as well for the world championships.
How is it fair of competing against sizes? That doesn't seem fair.
Well, everyone's grouped in their divisions, and then there's also the open weight, which is a free for all, as well. So there's an opportunity for like a lightweight to go up against a heavyweight. So that brings up some interesting challenges that come
like a
along
McGregor
with it. But it's
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that is interesting.
But if you see some of the YouTube videos that in the past few years, we've had a lightweight go up against a heavyweight, and a lightweight wins because he just knows how to outmaneuver the big guy.
Sure, much faster. There has
and
to
then
be
the women, and the women's division is starting to build up too now. So
and
that's the big thing
wear?
we're pushing for. They have the whole one-piece leotard.
Okay.
So it's
like Borat.
I know. It's more actually a little more what do you use for the public eye, family friendly now.
Sure.
And the men can still wear the mawashi or have the shorts underneath as well.
Okay, wow.
So something doesn't accidentally
Absolutely.
fall off.
Tell me that the women don't go against the men, or is it just a free for all for that too?
Actually, I went to a tournament in Austin, Texas recently, and we had our first men and then women's open weight together. So it was an interesting setup because we just didn't have enough people all together. So it was decided from the host director to add the women into the open weight division. So we just did a co-ed men's and women's open weight. That was the only time I've seen it happen officially here in the U.S. That's the first time, which was cool. It's good to see. It was actually interesting.
It absolutely is, and good for these women. I mean, I'm obviously all about female empowerment in sports and everything else. So it's very interesting for me to check out. So thank you for telling me. I'd love to interview a woman going into that too. So wow, that's incredible. When your ceremonies, you say they're a little shortened in America. Is it more of like the Muay Thai ceremonies?
It's actually more streamlined than that. It's just basically the cherry chozu, which is before entering the ring. We do our quick ceremony similar to that in Japan, and then do our pre-fight stance and everything before the actual tachiya, which is the actual collision between wrestlers.
Okay.
But it's very shortened. It's very shortened.
but again, like you said, the amateurs in America, we have a shorter attention span, whereas the Japanese
that's true.
have less stress and they outlive us all the time. So just yet another example of that.
Because the cherry chozu can go in Japan like almost 5 to 10 minutes long. It's like, oh no, we got to keep going. We have a time
exactly.
effect to go
TikTok's
on,
only
so we
so
have
long.
to keep moving. But then it's very quick. The cherry chozu is done in less than a minute, and then all the pre-exhibition before the tournament actual matchup comes in, then it goes, and it can last from anywhere from 2 seconds to 5 minutes, and then if there's no winner at that time, it just restarts again.
Okay, very interesting. But back to, and what about safety? Have you gotten hurt or had any setbacks?
Yeah. It's since sumo wrestling is a very physical sport. I actually had a fractured shoulder, twisted, broken ankle, concussion.
Oh gosh.
So it's very dangerous. We've had other wrestlers broken legs, busted knee, scrapes, cuts, and everything that goes along with it. It's very physical. I mean, there are some safety factors we tell all wrestlers. Remember, this is just a sport. Don't go super crazy, but some just go at it, just brute strength or technique. And it's very, very physical.
Extremely. And I watched a video where the average, the professionals in Japan, their lifespan is cut by 10 years short.
Yeah.
But then again, that could be a lot of athletics because of the injuries and again, concussions, collisions.
Yeah, and also weight and, being diabetic. I'm also diabetic right now. I have high blood pressure, but it's controlled. That's why I'm also losing weight to reduce the diabetes. I'm type 2 and high cholesterol, high blood pressure. So that's all being taken care of.
And you will be able to control that because of your regimen and everything like that.
Yeah.
And let's just say that you book a big commercial in Beirut for Volkswagen or something, God knows what. And then
I think that one was in Beirut was Pizza Hut.
Oh, even better. So Pizza Hut,
yeah,
you're fine. But you could get one, in the very near future. So
yeah,
I think we'll be back on camera soon. And it's, as we know, the camera adds 10 pounds. So, but I love that you have it under control. So you could actually, looking at the sumo wrestler diet, being so healthy, the one that in Japan and other countries.
Yeah.
Do you also incorporate some of your Filipino-based cuisine in some of the?
I'll still have my lumpia Shanghai, my pancit. I'll still have that.
Sure.
Pretty much all the Filipino food I can still eat, but I'm always partial to Japanese food, and then Italian would be next up.
Yeah, Italian
Filipino food and pretty much barbecue. I'm also a big barbecue fan, so go for Texas or some Kansas City or even Tennessee barbecue.
Absolutely, no judgments. Food is just it's that's why this is so interesting.
I'm a big foodie. I do a sumo foodie thing too, so I was like like to try out different restaurants.
It's very entertaining. And you go to grand openings in your ceremonial suit and you do videos for them. I'll put all of the links so people can
I recently started doing that now. So like if there's a big Japanese restaurant grand opening going on, I'll contact them if they want me to come down. Hey, I'll come down and give them a good show.
There's a big market for that. That would be incredible. That could be your next side job. You could have a show on the Food Network. Who knows? This is a very specific niche that people would be interested in, especially the 10,000 calorie a day diet, which you're not.
I think I'm down to less than 5,000 to 2,000 calorie day now.
That's like, good. Good. We'll get you out of that type 2 diabetes for. Now, does hazing exist? Is there hazing done in these sports?
Officially, there's no hazing, but there's name calling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But unofficially, there has been some hazing issues, but it's frowned upon. Especially, it's supposed to be an honorable sport. There has been some hazing incidents in the past, but the U.S. Federation that covers the whole U.S. North American wrestlers out here. It's supposed to be an honorable sport, and we try to maintain that and just give warnings to wrestlers that are athletes, just don't do it. It's just not an honorable way to compete.
Right, especially
you
watching.
You can cheer them on. You can root for them and everything. It's like there's always an intimidation factor that's involved with athletes, and that's prevalent in all the sports.
But these combat sports seem to relish that, and it's also good for press.
Yeah.
And America loves that. I myself love that. I love the fights. I hate to say it, that's like fascinating. Like when the NHL took the fights out, it's like, well,
oh yeah.
I mean, no.
Yeah, it became it's like mediocre watching. It's like, oh, they didn't fight. Oh.
I mean, that was like what you looked forward to.
Or
like,
even in baseball and football, it's like, oh, you see a fight going on. Oh, everyone's coming out of the dugout.
I know, and I hate to think that it's not like we want to put on, bring on violence, but let's just face it.
I know.
We're drawn to that. I mean, I love the sport. I love UFC and MMA, and I love boxing.
Yeah.
And
UFC, their intimidation towards each other is like, who's got the big mouth, and then once they go into the ring, that's how they solve it.
And then who was the bigger, too. I mean, the whole thing. Does the UFC recognize sumo as one of their,
We've had former UFC competitors in the past, but it's right now we really don't have a connection with them right now. It's just past people who competed in the past and then wanted to try out sumo wrestling and see how they'll do. But with sumo wrestling, it's open to everyone. We've had football players come here, power lifters, weightlifters. Pro wrestling people have come in the past. We've had different types of athletes come in and try it out.
Okay. I would think that other athletics may benefit from the techniques that you do in sumo and certain combats. I mean, what is the training like? I'm sure you have many ceremonial things that you do together. Some of
the training. Lifting weights is one of the options because some people want to have muscle mass compared to fat, and also endurance because you don't know how long you're going to be in the ring, into the dojo, and you got to have the endurance to stay in there as long, because you can see two big guys going at it and you burn a lot of energy real quick.
Very much so.
And start to get tired. So weightlifting, endurance training, and like I said, with the different divisions, lightweight, you see the fast, quick pace of the athletes compared to a heavyweights, which is just bronze strength and endurance, just to hang on or be able to push off your opponent, or just take just full on brute strength and hope for the best after that.
What about, like, even in wrestling, some of the grappling and even some of the ways to bring down your weight, like the saunas, treadmills in the saunas? Do you have to, is it as strict as some of like the boxing or the wrestling where you?
No.
Okay.
With sumo wrestling, it's open to all types of training. If you need to gain the weight, lose the weight, eating diets, all that stuff, it's very open. It depends on the person that's competing, anywhere from the lightweight to the heavyweight, and also it's on the individual itself. So it's just up to each person, really, and it's open. It doesn't have, there's no limits to it. The only thing we just say is no drugs and no enhancement, because we're trying to follow the same protocols in professional sports as well, because with the recent incidences back in
Russia,
the professional, there was an incident with one of the Russian wrestlers as well in Japan.
It was Russia in general. Not following the
and
rules.
Others, but we're not going there. But
right.
But it was a big thing about that in Japan a few years ago. So that's great. I'm sure people experiment with it. And what about like human growth hormones or things like that? Would that be okay? Like what Schwarzenegger does? Right now, I don't think it's allowed at the moment in our sports. And in amateur sumo, usually it's not a big thing until it gets into the Olympics, I think, at that point.
But they don't test you
once in the Olympics, that's a different story.
Sure.
That becomes a different story.
But you don't get tested going in, like for the anabolics or anything like that?
No, because we are an amateur sport and it's the sport is still small. It's very difficult to test, but there is an option to test if necessary, but it's expensive. And usually the host director would have to put up the bill for that. It depends on cost right now, and it's still expensive to do testing of all the athletes and everything. But we're still trying to follow the rules with that.
Sure, especially to get to the Olympics. Now, but really, basically for the training, do you do any kind of cardio? Because I'm sure, especially with the big guys, with endurance. I mean, I love boxing. Before I was injured, I was all boxing, and I'm still trying to get back into it. I mean, just 1 minute of just the heavy bag will tire out worse than if you're like running sprints. I mean, how do they do any kind of cardio? Or just like a lot?
Like I said, it's up to the individual. Before I was doing the biking around, running around. I was doing laps around my neighborhood, just do around the block several times. But that was years ago. So
sure, did that hurt your knees?
With the extra weight, you start to feel it in my feet, my ankles, my knees. Yeah, but I was still. Be able to do that. I think biking was a good alternative because it didn't overstress my knee points at that point. I can just keep going and run, bike the miles out to get my cardio instead of doing flat out running.
Sure. Now, would you go back to maybe joining some practices in order to get your weight down as far as taking yourself off?
The big thing about amateur wrestling in the U.S., I Bleav, it's just time availability and plus availability with the other club members, because in each state there's a few clubs that are big. The big ones are like California, Texas, East Coast. Florida is now becoming a big major spot for wrestlers now. Midwest, we had Kansas City. And then up in the Northwest is Oregon and Seattle. We got wrestlers also out there too as well.
That's great.
But the problem is trying to get everyone together per individual club to practice. And some are doing it every week, once a week. I mean, or once every two weeks or something like that. But it depends on the club. Organization that in each state.
Okay, I would think with the popularity of the UFC, it's kind of opened the eyes to people for all martial arts, including sumo.
Yeah,
and that's why I wonder if the UFC even recognizes that, like if Dana White were to come in there and sort of start recruiting with the sumos.
Yeah,
and I think the UFC is even revamping their own heavyweight, all the divisions, because it doesn't seem fair.
Well, I remember, I think Akibono competed as well. I think he competed once or twice on the circuit, UFC circuit. This was a few years ago.
Okay.
But I haven't seen any real heavyweight sumo wrestlers in the UFC lately.
Okay.
In terms of our membership, I haven't seen anyone in the UFC at the moment that are competing in there, and if I don't remember of any wrestlers right now competing in UFC.
Sure.
But there has been sumo in the UFC. Like I said, I think it was Akibono was competed once or twice back in the 80s or 90s. I think it was back in the 80s. I think it was.
And you look like The Rock. I'm sure you're compared to The Rock.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Some people say I'm the sumo Rock, the fat Rock.
Well, it's crazy. I mean,
sumo Rock.
But you have the same.
Yeah, I do the eyeball thing.
Yes,
the people's
you do.
eyebrow.
You definitely do. He is Samoan, isn't he?
He's Polynesian and black.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's,
you're full Filipino.
Next, I'm full Filipino.
Okay, very interesting.
I think there's some Polynesian in there somewhere. I just don't.
Sure.
I don't know.
I can see
whole
it.
Family line.
I can see it for sure.
Yeah. I've played Hawaiian before, Samoan.
And you're a good dancer. I've seen you dance in your wife.
I only dance when I usually get paid for it. But
there you go. Yeah. But you've got the skills to pay the bills, because obviously you got recruited for the pretty face, and then.
But I'm not good enough for Dancing with the Stars or anything.
Sure. Someone could The Rock could body double you. But speaking of The Rock, would you have ever wanted to go into WWE when that was popular?
I did some pro wrestling, but I never went into I thought about the WWE, but my career was more into acting than
But
into
look
the
at John Cena.
WWE.
That's
Yeah.
what he
Well,
loved about
he
wrestling.
started out. Yeah, he started out in the WWE and then moved over to film. Same thing with The Rock and with same thing with Stone Cold Steve Austin as well,
But
and a
I
few
heard
other wrestlers that transferred over to film and TV.
very much so. And John Cena just said when wrestling stopped, he said he missed the acting part of it, the hosting part of it, and creating that character. So and now he's producing. So it really seemed to be you guys went
and
opposite.
A lot of commercials too.
Absolutely. So no, this is something you keep doing these cooking shows.
Yeah.
What you have, and you would be the next one. So I think that's really interesting. But yeah, I'm very impressed. And so again, for the training, really it depends on each individual.
Each individual is different.
But if
for
you
me,
Japan,
it was usually the biking and then the weightlifting to get my strength up and endurance build up from there.
Okay. And so from here on in, would you be looking at sort of the traditional Japanese sumo diet as far as how the clean eating with the stews and the lean proteins, maybe the rice, just to help yourself?
Well, I enjoy having Japanese food, so I pretty much follow that type of diet. A lot of sushi, sashimi, udon, ramen, and
That's wonderful.
But I think for every day, it's just I can pretty much eat whatever is available, whatever my taste of the day is. Like I said, I'll do Italian, have Italian food. Japanese, Thai, Vietnamese, or American cooking.
Are you keeping track of the macros then? If you swap, because the Japanese diet's so clean and fresh and healthy. I care about you.
Usually the natural, healthy stuff. I try to avoid the processed foods. Unfortunately, here in America, we have a lot of processed food here.
Exactly, and
I still do enjoy my McDonald's and Burger
Who doesn't?
King.
Yes, and you can in moderation. I just care about you.
Yeah.
We want you on the planet for a long, long time to see that beautiful.
Yeah.
So
that's why I'm trying to lose the weight to go drop another 25 pounds, and I should be fine.
You will, yeah. But you're already on a roll, and you already know what to do. So
yeah.
And then just also, did your family support you in all of this?
Yeah, they still support me. My parents are still in Jersey. We had a tournament out there. I think was it 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and I invited them to come down and watch me compete. So it was good to see them seeing their son competing in sumo wrestling.
Yes.
So they could brag to their friends and everything. Oh, my son's a sumo wrestler.
That's so cool. Yeah, because
and for Filipinos, I'm one of 3 Filipinos out of 150 athletes out there. So yeah, it's rare to have a Filipino because most Filipinos are small, skinny. I'm the big mutant in the family. Right.
No, it's a good thing. And do they recognize you in the Philippines as a sumo wrestling athlete in America?
No, I think the big thing in the Philippines is still Pacquiao in boxing.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and basketball is their thing out there. So sumo wrestling hasn't been introduced into the Philippines yet. I think that might be my next step, but it's going to be a slow process for that one.
Yeah, but have you ever met
Pacquiao? It's good to have another. I haven't met Pacquiao yet. I actually met and worked with Mark Muniz, who was from UFC MMA fighting. So I worked with him on a recent film that just premiered in Hawaii. So we worked together on that project. I haven't seen the movie yet. I want to see it soon. It's called Lumpia with a Vengeance.
Lumpia with a Vengeance. Well, I'll put that in all the notes. And were you shooting anything else during this pandemic?
During the pandemic, it's been weird because, during the first beginning, March, April, May, June, it was slow. Nothing was going on until August, I think was the big thing. Production started up again. I started working on, started out with a music video and eventually some of the TV shows starting, but it was mostly doing background or auditioning for principal work now. It's work out here in LA is starting to come back again. It's just not as busy as it used to be. I think that's the big thing right now.
Absolutely.
and character type for me, it's almost non-existent. So whatever role comes around, it's mostly basic. Asian or the big guy, something like that.
Absolutely. And they're just going very, very basic, like real, normal people. Yeah, there's not a lot of work for certain stereotypes right now.
Right,
But I still can't work anyway with the injury. But no, what are your goals going forward? How can we support you? I'll put all the social medias on in the notes.
Well, I'm going to start doing more foodie videos and content, and that's my big thing. Please do. As I get older, the sumo wrestling is starting to get harder and harder for me. Unfortunately, age does slow you down, unfortunately. But I'll still do more on the sumo side. I'll still compete, but on the masters level. That's usually 40 years and older will have the separate division as well. Okay. But I'll be more on an administrative end on the sumo wrestling world. Awesome. And then I still continue my acting career because I'll still play the cop or the big Asian monster guy or bodyguard or whatever comes around, or even just a regular role character, whatever comes up. I'm represented. I got the managers. I got the agents. It's just a matter of booking.
It's hurry up and wait.
Yeah, all that. Hurry up and wait, or do the self-tapes now. This pandemic's really changed the entertainment industry. That's the big thing.
It's a little
with
scary.
Me.
But the good thing is we have to be producers at this point. And you're doing
that's the next thing. If I can hit the lottery, I've been always getting the lottery tickets, Powerball, Mega Millions,
and investing, but continuing this cooking show. And I love some of the hashtags. Can you give me some of the hashtags that you have for these sumo foodie adventure travels?
I have sumo.
I'll
sumo
put them all on
travel
there.
Adventures. Yeah.
Okay, that's the one I was
sumo
looking for.
And all that. Yeah, that's the big thing. That's my big tagline. Or the most interesting sumo in the world. That's my other tagline.
That's perfect.
In the hashtag.
Yeah.
Because I've already been around the world, and I still. I wish I can do more international stuff.
And you have
I have to wait.
Stories. And this would be a really good show. And just even down to your T-shirt, I can see my guest, and it's America's is an impact our future, and there's a huge dragon.
Yeah, and that's for the Martial Arts History Museum, which I'm a member for. So
and I saw you do a video on that
logo,
too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, I just did a video promoting because they haven't been able to
do anything.
Stay open. They can't do anything. No events. The Dragon Fest was canceled. That was my big event, the go-to to help promote sumo at the martial arts convention is Dragon Fest. That was the big thing. I do that last 3 years. I was representing sumo wrestling out there, and for new people to check it out. I even did the demo 2 or 3 years ago. But I run a booth and help support sumo, try to promote sumo here in America. Like I said, most Americans don't know that there is sumo wrestling here in the United States.
Right.
And it's growing, but it's not as popular or in every state yet. It's not, it just needs a further more promotion and more boost out there.
It's just
and
not
I hope to do that
enough.
I hope to do that through commercials. If any companies need a sumo wrestler, I'll put my name out there.
But that's a great goal to bring that sport, because I think a lot of kids right now, because of the Zoom school and the fact that they're so antisocial, this would be another great way to get them in, together and just in the upcoming future. Because I think kids are going to become more and more sedentary with the Zoom school, more video games. This is a great sport. There's discipline. I mean, if you go the Japanese side, but regardless, martial arts in general is a wonderful program.
Or even, with the children, with the pandemic, it's hard to do, but like with martial arts, different like karate, judo, and all the other, some of the schools are closed because of it, but doing the Zoom videos, and eventually as soon as this pandemic's over, hopefully some of the schools will come back or will start training. Yeah.
And I think the UFC will help push a lot of these martial arts. And specifically because people don't know about it. And that's why I wanted to interview you and kind of dispel the myth of, the 10,000 calorie diet. Sumo wrestlers are not fat. I mean, especially the ritualistic ones. Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. It's just such clean eating with and again, chaganabe.
Yeah.
Chaganabe.
That's the stew of the sumos.
And it's vegetables, proteins and broth, and then and then a lot of rest as well. And you guys hibernate. You eat, and then you hibernate for a long time, and you start all over again. I think that's fascinating. But it is like a sleeping bear, literally, because if it's poked, it's going to kill you, like a sumo wrestler. So
you piss off a bear.
Exactly. Don't piss off America. That's for sure. Well, I will put all the links below, and I am so excited for more sumo travel adventures, sumo foodie adventures, and I wish you and your wife.
I'm open to try it out, any types of food.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait. I'd love for you to try some of my Eastern European that I was raised on. I love. It is like the best. And people are like, what is that? Like, I would bring it to school, like leftovers. I'm like, ugh, gross.
I miss having British food, German. Oh my God, it was so. When I did the trips out there, I was like, oh my God, the food was just unbelievable. And I think that's a big thing too. Being booked on these international gigs, you get the chance to experience different cultures, especially the food.
It is. It really, and I realize we are so small. As Americans, we think we're like, everything. And it's just, you have to expand your horizons. So many people don't. And I just love that all of this sort of happened accidentally for you, because it was me. So I love following your career. And every time I get to work with you or see it in addition, it's just a joy. So anyway, well, best of luck. And
thank you.
I'll contact you again.
Go Sumo!
And that was professional sumo wrestler, Hollywood actor, and sumo foodie, Captain Americus Abasamis, on the diet and training for a professional sumo wrestler. You can find him on all social media at Capt Americus, and that is spelled CaptAmericus. Please stay tuned in next week for my interview about a very outside-of-the-box animalistic training method. It's fun, it's difficult, and it can be wild. We appreciate you for listening. And please subscribe and rate the show with 5-star ratings on iTunes. You can also listen on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Luminary, Tuned In, or at Bleav.com. You can always reach out to me for any questions or topics you'd like covered on the show, Anne McDaniels. And I'll see you next time on SoCal Sweat.